Hello everyone, so today I'll be reviewing MASH. So MASH came out in 1970 and was directed by Robert Altman, and this film is set during the Korean War, so 1950s, and it's a comedy film and it stars Elliott Gould and Donald Sutherland, and this film actually ended up spawning the TV series MASH, which ran for 10 years. But anyway, this film came first, and here we have Donald Sutherland. He plays a character called Hawkeye, and we get Elliott Gould play a character called Trapper John. And really what this film is about is in this surgical unit in this camp where the people are looking after the Korean War veterans and all the people that are injured, and we have lots of surgery going on, so lots of the characters are actually surgeons and they're looking after all these ill patients. But really, that's not what the film is about. This is a comedy film, and the film is about everything that happens in between them doing the surgery. I mean, we do get a few scenes of the characters performing the surgery, but in between we get lots of practical jokes and lots of funny scenes. Two of the more interesting characters are actually Robert Duvall's character, who is Frank Burns, and Sally Kellerman's character, who is Major Houlihan, because these two characters, they're very by the book, and they come in and they want to do everything exactly by the rules. They want to do everything correctly. But then we have Hawkeye, played by Donald Sutherland, and Trapper John, played by Elliott Gould, and these two characters are a bit more reckless and they like to have a bit of fun and just enjoy themselves a bit more. So these two characters, they end up playing lots of practical jokes on Frank and Major Houlihan. One of the funniest scenes in this film is actually a scene which I won't necessarily spoil too much, but it's a scene which involves Frank and Major Houlihan, and it ends up with Major Houlihan being nicknamed Hot Lips, and basically all the other characters then make fun of her from then on. Hot Lips then receives lots of abuse throughout this film from a lot of the male characters, and we get all sorts of funny, crude and, well, perhaps quite inappropriate scenes throughout this film. Now, this was the first time that I had ever seen this film. I didn't really know much about it. I knew that it was a comedy film. I knew that there was a TV series which came after it, but having never really seen the TV series, I didn't have anything to compare it to. And having watched it last night, I have to say, I think I enjoyed it very much. There were a lot of very funny moments in it. There were lots of brilliant jokes. And although, to be honest, the film itself doesn't really have much of a plot in the sense that there isn't a proper story to follow, it really is just these characters having a laugh and having a bit of fun and enjoying themselves and performing lots of silly, practical, ridiculous jokes on each other and lots of funny things taking place. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be one of those films that is not going to appeal to everyone, because not only is it a comedy film, but a lot of the humour is perhaps a bit inappropriate by today's standards. I reckon a lot of people are going to watch this film and they're going to see it as being a bit sexist or misogynistic. In some of the scenes you can certainly understand that, particularly with a lot of the scenes with Hot Lips, because this character, Hot Lips, she receives lots of abuse from the men and is not treated well at all, and the film in general sort of treats her character as a bit of a joke and a bit of an idiot. But then the overall tone of this film, it is quite a dark comedy, and it's not a particularly serious film, so I would say going into this, don't expect it to be a serious film, and I think you'll have a good time with it, because it has lots of funny moments dotted throughout it, and just some of the lines and just the overall scenery, the location, what is going on. We get some really funny scenes, particularly towards the end. We get this excellent football game where we get some really funny dialogue and some really funny, slightly cool action scenes with the whole football match taking place, and that was really enjoyable. This film is very ironic, so it's a bit of a satire really. In fact, the theme song to this film is called Suicide is Painless, which obviously just pretty much sums up the film exactly as it is. And it's not meant to be taken seriously. It is a very wacky film, one of the wackiest comedies I've seen. Not a particularly realistic film, I suppose, in some ways, but then again, that's not always a bad thing. This is one of those films that was quite a surprise hit at the box office. It was actually one of the biggest films of 1970, and at the time Robert Altman, he was known as a director for doing quite low budget B movies and wasn't particularly well known. And in fact, quite a few of the actors in this, like Donald Sutherland and Elliott Gould, they weren't particularly well known at the time, but since went on to become much bigger stars afterwards, so it really helped give their careers a boost. And another, well, a really random fact about this film is that this film is apparently the first film where a character says the F word. Now, having watched it last night, I didn't really notice the part where the F word is said, but I'm told it's during the football game at some point when one of the characters shouts something. So if ever you get a chance to watch this, just listen out for that, because that's just one of those random interesting facts. And I quite like random things like that, because obviously swearing used to be really taboo in movies, but this is the early 70s when things were starting to change slightly. So that's why they slapped the F word somewhere in this film. So overall, I have to say MASH is a hilarious comedy. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Do I think it's one of the best comedies of all time? Well, if I'm honest, probably not. I suppose I'm sure that this was one of those films which was probably much funnier when it came out, and the humour in it is going to be quite dark for a lot of people, and some of the scenes people simply won't find funny. But having said that, it's like that with all comedy films. So overall, I'm going to give MASH a rating of 8 out of 10. I recommend that you watch it if you like dark or black comedy films, and you like comedy films which maybe push the boundaries a little bit and like to be a little bit controversial, because by today's standards this probably is quite a controversial film. I certainly can't see some of the jokes in this being done now without people being outraged. But anyway, there we go. So that is my review of MASH. So what do you guys think? Have you seen MASH? Does it sound like your cup of tea? Please let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.